Okay, good morning. Not, you have two of us here. Commissioner Rader could show up at any time. I'm not quite sure, but Suze, we'll just turn it over and let you go.
Okay, let me get this set up real quick. Okay, so Susie Moon, Finance Manager. Today we have Juvenile with us. We have intergovernmental revenue of 1,000, and so far they haven't brought in any revenue under that category. Goods and services had a budget of just shy of 56,000, and they have exceeded that. So during the fourth quarter budget amendment, we'll be increasing that to agree with the year-to-date actuals. And that is made up of room and board charges. Miscellaneous revenue didn't have a budget, but they have brought in just over $800 for the year. So we'll be amending that in the fourth quarter as well.
The room and board, is that what we charge like Wokai come and, yeah, okay.
Other financing sources has a budget of just shy of 33,000 and so far hasn't recorded any revenue for that category. That is going to be a transfer in of ARPA dollars that was approved during the third quarter budget amendment. So they are part of the general fund, so their budgeted revenues are not going to equal their budgeted expenses. Personnel has a budget of just over 2.8 million and so far has expended 1.7 million. They have 27 and 3/4 FTE that are currently filled, and then 2.5 FTE that are currently open. 2 of those are going to be detention officers. Those vacancies account for about 127,000 in payroll costs through August before factoring in any benefits. So if we factor in the payroll costs and the benefits for the open FTE, they would be slightly over budget by roughly 20,000 for personnel costs. Supplies has a budget of just over 59,000 and so far has expended 36,000. So they are under budget for supplies. Services has a budget of just over 529,000 and so far has expended 472,000. About 380,000 though are the internal service billings. So removing those, they would be significantly under budget.
Yeah.
So that's it for juvenile detention. Our next department is going to be probation. Intergovernmental revenue had a budget of 406,000 and so far has brought in 268,000. So they are right on target for that revenue category. It looks like 203,000 is made up of state grant funding. Goods and
Is that ongoing, George? Is something you apply for every year? Okay.
Goods and services has a budget of $200 and so far hasn't brought in any revenue for that category so far this year. Miscellaneous revenue has a budget of 226,000 and so far has brought in 160,000. Most of that is actually related to the BECA funding, which comes from the state, and that's used to provide intervention services, treatment, and support to youth. Other financing sources has a budget of just shy of 149,000 and so far has brought in 93,000 and those are transfers in for the mental health tax dollars. And again, this department is part of the general fund, so their revenues won't equal expenses. This department has 13 filled FTE and 2 current openings. Personnel has a budget of just over 1.6 million and so far has expended just shy of 900,000. They are under budget for this category even after factoring in the 2 vacancies. Supplies has a budget of 25,000 and so far has expended 15,000. So they are slightly under target for that category. Services has a budget of 708,000 and so far has expended 509,000. But 277 of that's related to the internal service billing, so they are under target for that one as well. And that's all I have for probation. The department's here if you have any operational questions.
You gave us I got a couple things. I think we were talking about overtime usage the last time and you had a couple thoughts on that. I'd be interested in an update.
So we did perform an audit of the department's payroll, including overtime. And we were able to verify our office along with the auditor's office that payroll was being paid out in accordance with the union agreement specific to overtime. So we didn't identify any discrepancies as part of that review. We have been trending overtime by month for 2025 compared to 2024, and we have broken it out by position. So that's the document that I provided to you, just shows the overtime for the month by position and what that looked like this year compared to 2024. The department has also provided a write-up. They have been analyzing their overtime as well. And they did provide some feedback on, we noticed there was an increase from April to May this year. And they did have to open up a third pod in May, as well as a third pod in August. And they've noted that in July, that's when a lot of their staff takes vacation. So that's why they've seen an increase in overtime in those 3 months when compared to 2024. And I believe when they were last here for budget review, they had hired 2 new detention officers, which attributed to an increase in overtime as well, I believe for overlap for training.
Don't know if I have a ton of questions. Kind of have to digest this here. Okay.
And I believe for the 2 openings, is there plans to fill those soon? I think I saw something in the write-up.
Are you trying to fill those open positions?
Second.
Are you trying to fill the open positions you have right now?
Yeah, we are always hiring, all this whole year, we've been trying to hire for full-time and part-time staffing. So far this year, we started the year with 6 open positions. We have hired 6, but we've also had some resignations over the course of the year. Our last 2 hires, one of them started the same week someone left, and then this newest new hire will finish their training about the same time another person leaves. So we always are kind of combating that turnover rate. So we are always actively hiring. We have several people kind of in the works. From first interview to through training and being on the floor, it's about a 4.5 to 5 month process. So it takes us some time. But we are trying to fill those spots.
So from the beginning of hiring somebody to end of training is what kind of a gap?
From the moment we make the offer to when we do it, or from when we do the first interview?
When you decide you're going to hire somebody and now you got to put them through training?
That's a 5 weeks training that we do to get them to where we're comfortable that they can actually run a housing unit with the juveniles.
Okay.
And then they have an additional 80 hours of academy training sometime later during the year that the state requires.
Probably take some time and look this over, George. If I have any questions, I'll ship them your way. Or you tell me where to ship them.
Good morning, Commissioners. George Moya, Juvenile Court Administrator. Yes, Commissioner Dodd, just take your time, and we prepared that document just to kind of give you an idea of the nature of a 24-hour business.
Sure.
We're at the mercy of our personnel, we're at the mercy of our population, and those things tend to be the drivers of the overtime. As Mike was explaining, when you have a vacancy, you have to set time to conduct interviews. So that also takes people off their job posts in order to participate in a panel, let's say, for example, as a panel. And once you actually offer someone the position and they accept, we have to get them through training. And once we get them trained, where we're comfortable enough where they're gonna be successful at the academy, be in a residential pod where they're not gonna be a risk to themselves or to somebody else, then they get to go to the academy, which creates another void. And that's just the nature of the business, unfortunately.
And I get all that, you know, when you're working with people, getting them up to speed, I don't have any problem with that. What I'm trying to figure out is we came in and we changed some job titles and duties. And the purpose of that was because as they were titled, it created a lot of overtime. And if we changed the job title, it would not create that overtime. And I'm trying to see where I can see that in here is probably what I'm looking for.
Oh, I see.
So if you go to the charts that are in there, one of them is our general overtime tracking, and it's broken down with overtime, extra help, and then our lead, which is our shift supervisor overtime. So the shift supervisor overtime, that's where you're going to see that, because what we were doing before is we were filling those vacancies with just overtime. And we've seen a huge decrease in our shift supervisor in overtime directly related to that position that we created those 2 new posts for.
That's the red line here?
Yeah, I think it's red or orange, I think, depending which printout it was.
Yeah. It could be either. It looks red to me, but doesn't mean it is.
So in August, what do we attribute that rapid decline for on that chart that you're referring to?
It's the other chart. Where's the? Sorry.
Because it looks like it's holding steady and then all of a sudden we hit a.
Okay, so in August, it was actually in July where we had the big spike in that orange line. That was because we had one of our supervisors took 2 weeks of vacation, another one took a week of vacation, and then there's just a smattering of stuff. It's just July is a big month for people to take their vacation. So then when they vacate that post, somebody has to fill it. So it's filled with overtime usually.
But your extra lead position, your overtime, and your extra help, all of them took a steep dive down. You see that, your green line, your blue line, and red.
In August, yeah. So going into August, we actually the green and the blues went way up in August because we had an extra pod opened. We didn't have a lot of vacation or things with our leads, so that one dropped. And then for September, we haven't had the extra pod. We haven't had a whole lot of leave taken by staff or by our supervisors. So all those numbers are trending back down again, where they kind of will be without those extra things that add into our overtime need. And then the September one it's through the 22nd, obviously, so.
And is it still trending down the remainder of the year?
It should be right around in that same kind of part where you can look at the lines where it kind of stays in that same between the 300 and 400 hours of usage for our extra help, and then a little bit higher for our overtime. It should trend right in that range just because of the open positions. The way we're staffed, we're 3/4 of an FTO short of even meeting our minimum staffing needs. So those hours are always going to be built in there, and then whatever leave is taken.
So I apologize for missing the first couple of minutes of the meeting, but so are we saying that we opened up an extra pod because we had that number of youth in the facility?
We had in May, when we had the first spike for the overtime, we had in the community, we had two rival gangs that quite a few people shot at each other. There were several victims, several perpetrators, and they were all in our facility at the same time. So we have to separate those ones out, and that's why we opened another pod. It wasn't because we reached a number that required us to open another pod. It was a safety and security needs.
Okay. Like I said, we'll probably digest this some and I imagine if we have questions, we'll just ship them over to you, George. That'd be good. Okay,
Sounds good.
thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that's all I have for you today. That's it.
Okay. You have a miscellaneous, I'll just bring up, I'm going over this. I don't know if you two have decided to go over to, this is like the annual WASAC meeting over in Spokane.
I saw it.
We can all go. I'm just letting you know if you wanted to do that, it's there. Usually it's, they bring in vendors like they had, crab in and they had different things and I found it useful the time I went over to learn how crab works because you hear Susan talk about it a lot and different things. So I found that useful. And then they hold the annual meeting at the end and you can zoom in, but it's the one meeting where all directors vote.
Oh,
Okay.
And the last time Dennis and I went over and Arn zoomed in for the meeting, but I'm just letting you know, this is their big one if you decide you want to attend.
And it's worth the education.
I found at the time I went, yeah, because it was fairly new and I heard about crab, but I didn't really understand how they worked and I heard about some different things. They had a lot of breakout sessions where you could sit with the people.
Okay.
I'm glad you said that. I just thought it was something for you since you're on that committee.
No.
Now that I know that we can
No,
go. I'll
this is
look into it.
This is a big one. I haven't looked it up, but they'll probably list the breakout sessions and stuff and personally, I found it helpful.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? Till? Looking through. Well, we got quite a few at 10. We'll take a. You want to tackle the ones that are here?
I'm good with it if they are.
Yeah, okay. Whatever.
You okay with that? Ren, can we start with you?
Good morning, Brent Fox, Director of Corrections. Tomorrow you have on the agenda a personal services agreement with Medico. As you know, we went out to bid for the inmate jail medical services this year. Due to some issues with NAF care and the fact that they're not as profitable in the state of Washington due to continued litigation. So they were one of the bidders. However, they are not the company we chose. We went with the lowest bidder, which is Medico. We're currently paying NAF care $2,730,381. With Medico, it will be $4,827. That's a 46% increase.
About
Which
1.3 million.
Yeah,
Yeah.
46.5% increase. So as I said, that was the lowest bidder. Obviously, that's a huge increase, but this is the situation that we are in. Years 2 and 3 will be a 3% increase. Year 4 is a 3.5%, and year 5 is 4%. There is one position that's in this that we will not be filling until next year. Likely, it's connected to the Medicaid Transformation Act that we've put a pause on until we get this company in place.
Marin, how long after we get them in place, we'll be able to implement that Medicaid program?
We'll restart. We had begun, we just put a pause on it. So I believe we would go live in July of 26,
Okay.
once we get back on track.
And do we already know what services we're gonna be able to bill Medicaid for and about what that number what it's gonna be per year?
We don't know, but we will get information from other jurisdictions that have implemented. So we will be in a better position of knowing
Okay.
for sure, because quite a few agencies started July 1 of this year. So we'll have some data to pull.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Have they bid on other county, other jails? Do you know if it's the contract we're signing is similar to what other counties are being saying?
Well, the 2 other jails they have in the state of Washington, Nisqually Tribal Jail, which is not necessarily like-sized, and SCORE, which is a
Up
municipal,
Bellevue area.
a combined municipal jail in the Seattle area. It's a very large jail, so it's not really apples to apples necessarily.
How close was the next bidder?
Without having it in front of me, I want to say maybe at least 4.3. And I believe NAFCA was closer to 5.
Was the other bidders' yearly increases similar to? I mean, did we look at the whole 5-year deal?
Yes, yes.
Who reviews these contracts? Is it you or does our prosecuting attorney team get involved with it?
Yes, Jason Loreen has been involved, risk pool, obviously, and finance.
Just out of curiosity, this is the first time I've heard about it. Did we review these contracts? I don't remember seeing them.
Don't remember seeing them.
I don't remember seeing one either. I remember talking about it, but I don't remember seeing a contract,
From NAFCA or this contract,
the new one.
the new one? Yeah, it was submitted with the documents.
Okay, I might give Jason a call. Right. Okay,
Thank you.
gag. What else is in? I don't see PA, so how about Public Works? Can you talk about yours?
Good morning, Commissioners. Sean Roy, Public Works. We have, I believe, 3 items on the agenda for tomorrow. I'm going to skip to the motion item first, item number 10. It's a bid award to Glacier Environmental Services. I apologize. For the headquarters landfill gas collection and control system for a total cost of $1,490,176.49. So this is really our first expansion into the vertical well system for the landfill. We currently have horizontal wells, which do kind of go bad over time after settling. They can get, leachate and other items can go wrong with it. This is for 20 new vertical wells being drilled in. They're 3 feet in diameter. On average, they're about 110 feet deep each, with the largest being about 150 feet deep. And we're putting in a little over 18,000 feet of piping as well. So it's quite a large expansion to the gas system itself. And then we have Roger Maurer here, our senior engineer on the project. If you have any questions on that.
Do we use vertical wells over at Tenant? Is that vertical wells over there?
Yes, we have, there are vertical wells. There are vertical wells that were put in after we, or I don't know, was it after or around the same time we closed the landfill at Tenaway?
So we have some history that shows us that these outlast the horizontal.
That's correct.
And as we expand and move around the landfill, we continue this expansion for vertical wells. It's really the industry standard for gas extraction for the long term.
And these, we just use them to monitor what's coming up or what's in there.
Yeah, so we're
It's
actually,
part of our environmental review, I'm assuming.
Well, we need to combust all the landfill gas so it doesn't escape into the atmosphere. So all the
I got
methane
you.
and other
Okay.
gas constituents get burned in the flares.
Okay, I got you. Thanks.
So walk me through what do the wells do?
yeah.
Specifically, what are they for?
So the 3-foot diameter wells are drilled into the waste itself.
Okay,
There's I believe it's a 6-inch pipe going down the middle of it that's perforated. And there's a vacuum being applied to that well. And then, so outside of that 6-inch pipe is a level of gravel that allows the landfill gas to be extracted from the landfill, captured by the gas management system, and then flared off at our flares, or possibly in the future for another purpose.
and how deep is the well down the middle of it with the perforated pipe?
Yeah, so the wells range depending on the area. The deepest one's 150 feet. On average, they're about 110. So there's a solid piece at the top that's about 30 feet in
30
height,
feet.
and which has a seal around it. And then everything below that will be perforated and using to extract the gas from the landfill itself.
So is the pipe deeper than the landfill is?
No, it's usually about 15 to 20 feet higher than the liner,
Okay,
but it's going to the bottom. And then within a few of these wells is a pump. So the pump will extract the leachate from the bottom and put that into our leachate management system.
okay. What's the ultimate depth design for the landfill?
Do you know that kind of answer?
Not offhand, no.
No. Depending on the area you're in, it's going to vary significantly with the side slopes. But in the middle, I believe it's over 200 feet.
Okay,
22 cells altogether.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting to learn about. Thank you.
Oh, stay here for a second. Then we're going to go back to the consent item. Number 2 is a request for proposal. It's also kind of in the same realm. This is for our landfill gas management services. So we've had this ongoing contract for a few years now. The vendor we've used has been around for quite some time, but the contract's come to an end and it's time to go back out and look for proposals on that side.
So you're talking about the call for bids item.
Yeah, the request for proposals.
Okay.
Seems like we have a lot of those coming up recently. It's that time going back out again.
Any idea how long the last one's been there? I know quite some time, but
Do you know?
probably 5 years.
The last one was executed at the beginning of 2022.
Okay, so we're in that 3-year
Mhm.
frame where we tend to go out.
Yeah, so previously they were also awarded the contract before that. And prior to that, they were a subcontractor for our engineer of record at the time on the landfill.
Do we get many bids for that?
Last time. Yeah.
Yeah, quite a few.
So as Susan said, about 5 last time. There's a few in the area, and then you have the national wide ones as well.
What do you expect this will be? What was the last contract? What are we gonna pay? I know it's kind of a guesstimate, but
I think that, yeah, Roger, I think the last one was about $1 million, and that included design for the vertical expansion we just talked about. Now, they do some of our annual reporting as well, or quarterlies and biannual reporting, or year-end, third-party verification, gas reporting. So there's a lot of different items in there. We're gonna have to look at the bids and see what comes back for hourly rates before we can really give you a good answer on that, but I would expect, you know,
But if I-
a couple $100,000.
I say that over the last 3 years, we've used their services million to 2, I'd be in the ballpark.
I'll have you a good answer this afternoon.
Okay.
Any other questions on number 2?
Okay.
Come on, in.
So Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. So the remaining Public Works item is a change order, the first and final change order for our striping project. It's for a total of $10,586. It was for additional striping that we requested the striper to complete, and the total length was 28.5 miles. They completed the work at the original bid unit prices. It was just areas that were either left off the list or we had done some additional work on there that they went out to address.
Previous conversations, I know this is a new vendor for us, and
Yes.
initial impressions were good. We liked what they were doing. I guess winter always tells the story better, but to this point, we've been happy with everything they've done.
Yes, it looked much nicer this year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Didn't they also make a change in something to do with the paint, the quality of the paint that we were using?
We didn't change the
Or
paint,
did
did
they
we?
add something?
No, it's the same as we always use. It's a waterborne paint and glass beads.
Mhm.
I think you
It's
were.
for the
you were-
washdowns, yeah.
were in, I think you were saying you felt like maybe they put more beads in it.
Yeah,
Yes.
That was an improvement from before. You were
Yeah,
mentioning.
I think the last year's contract, it did not look like they had the right number of beads in it, where this looks like it's the correct.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gina. You're gonna have a day tomorrow.
Thank you.
Ina James, Health and Human Services. We do have several items on the agenda for tomorrow. I'll start with both items. It's kind of two different of our program areas. One is housing homeless, the other is our developmental disabilities programs. In both cases, we have a state contract and a couple of pass-through contracts. So I'm going to start with the consolidated homeless grant on the agenda for tomorrow. What I've handed out is just kind of an overview. I know there was some questions about what this grant has looked like in the past. And so I just wanted to highlight the last 3 bienniums that we've had this grant. what the award was, which on the right-hand side, you can see the award as that gray dotted line, and what we utilized from the grant period. And then just some data points about the individuals served. Historically, this funding has been primarily housing and essential needs funding, which is a partnership with the state. It's a state program, and we get involved with this grant for the housing component of that program to help individuals maintain their housing while they're going through a process with the state determining if they're able to go back to work or return to work, depending on what has happened in their situation. So what we've seen, as you can tell in the last biennium, the July 23 to June of 25, there was some additional funding awarded through the legislature. And this grant is a combination of state general funds as well as document recording fees that we collect locally. They go to the state and then they get returned back to us in this grant. So it's a combination of those two things. So in the last biennium, we had some additional funding awarded, and we started using the grant in a little bit different ways. So we started funding our coordinated entry contracts with the grant, as well as some other programs or one-time funding that we did with some of our community partners. We had a grant with Family Promise that we were able to bill to this grant instead of using our local document recording fees and that type of thing. We also started seeing the eviction prevention funding, which was the last large increase to the document recording fees. It was a $100 increase that started coming back to us in this grant. It was specific for eviction prevention. And that's when we started partnering with the Community Mediation Center, doing some of their work with conflict resolution between landlords and tenants and mediation and that type of work. On the back side is just kind of an overview of what we're looking at for this biennium. The contract amount is about $11.7 million. What we have lined up for pass-through contracts right now, which are on the agenda for tomorrow, is a contract with CAP and a contract with the Community Mediation Center. Those contracts are to kind of continue the work that we've been involved with them on with this grant. I would also continue to fund our coordinated entry contracts with Family Health Center, Community House, and Emergency Support Shelter with this contract, instead of billing our local document recording fees. So I just wanted to show sort of what, if the contracts are approved, what we would have allocated out and what we still have that would be unallocated in that sense. So I think we would have allocated a little under half of the total grant. If we are looking at future allocations, we would have lots of discussion with the board about what that looks like and what programs we might consider, and that sort of thing. I do want to point out, with all of these Health and Human Services bills this grant for some of our time. We're able to do that for work we do with our homeless housing task force, for time we spend working on our 5-year plan, doing the point in time count, other meetings and reports we put together for the state. So we bill our time towards this grant instead of the document recording fees as well. And then I know there was some question about how the state determines the funding amounts. I had a conversation with the state about what that looks like. They said historically the contract amounts have been determined using this formula where they look at your census data, your population that's in poverty, who's enrolled in HEN. They look at all these factors and some type of formula to generate how much funding they were giving to counties. It did not include the point in time count. And I've been triple confirmed that they do not use our point in time numbers to determine funding allocations. what they have said they're shifting to, and I think partly because with the addition of this extra funding that's been approved with the legislature, they have said future grants will be determined based on actual spending. So they're going to look at what counties utilized the previous year and make their allocations based on what has been spent.
Surprises me, haven't done that because we're looking at not even, we have commitments of less than half of what they want to give us. And I know there's, contrary to some belief out there, there are restrictions on what you can do this to. I can't
Mhm.
just give it away.
Right, right.
Gina, can you help me make sense of these numbers here? July 21 through 23, 350 clients served, 210 moved into housing, 75 exited. And then when we go down to 23 to 25, the numbers are pretty much the same. With the exception of we added the eviction prevention. Can you help me understand how those numbers would stay the same after 4 years of supposedly serving those clients?
Yeah, so and those aren't necessarily the same clients. So there could be some crossover between the bienniums, but they're not necessarily the same clients from that biennium to the next biennium. They are about the same, you're right. But when we look at like how many have moved into housing, for example, that is specific to that biennium. So there's no crossover there. So we have like from 21 to 23, 210 that moved into housing. And then when we go down to 23 to 25, 211 moved into housing. Those are different households that have moved into housing.
So are we saying then that every year we have about 140 families that become homeless?
That become homeless, I wouldn't draw that conclusion from this data.
Well, I'm just saying if we have 350 and 210 moved into housing and we're not talking about an overlap, and then the following year, again, we have 350 in
Mhm.
rapid housing. If we place 210, then that means we would have,
Yes, sorry, still looking for housing,
Yeah.
or that CAP is still working with to try to help get into housing.
Yeah.
Yes, that's accurate.
So is it fair to say that from July 1921 time period to 4 years later, we're spending twice as much money and got damn near equal results?
So
we started out with 219.
I think so, if you want my.
there has been more. What I will say too is part of this, a lot of this funding, as I said, the majority of it is typically for HIN individuals, and we are in that program paying rent for individuals. So one factor in here to consider too is how much rent has increased over the years, because that makes the cost of serving the same amount of individuals go up. In that, so they're
Rent didn't double in 4 years. Yes, it went up for damn sure, but it didn't double.
So the eviction prevention that started in 23,
Mhm.
If you add those two numbers together, that's how many people we prevented from becoming homeless, if I understand that correctly. Is that right?
Yes, and that could be, the 115 is likely duplicative with the 686 because they often start doing that mediation or that conflict resolution with individuals first. So they would be counted in that number. If they then move on to receive like the financial assistance piece, that's counted as the 115.
Okay.
If that makes
So the
sense.
115 probably is included in that then.
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because they've likely received one of those services. And they have to in order to be eligible for the financial piece of the eviction prevention. But that, if you subtract those numbers, then there was likely some type of resolution that didn't involve the financial side of eviction prevention that was either, the mediation center helped them with a repayment plan or just some type of communication between the tenant and the landlord that helped resolve their situation. And it didn't have to move forward to an eviction, or it didn't have to move forward to utilizing the financial piece of the eviction prevention. So,
I really like what the mediation center does for people
mhm,
with that. It's a really good program.
yeah.
So this consolidated housing grant, we're talking about items 11, 12, 13.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
When we're talking about this consolidated grant, are we affecting items 11, 12, 13? Then we have goes into the disability with LifeWorks and
On the agenda items.
Oh, yes. Sorry. I was looking at my sheet. Yes, on the agenda, what we have is the consolidated homeless grant with the state. We have the state contract for the 11.7. And then we have 2 pass-through contracts with CAP and the Community Mediation Center. And then we have
oh. Has the CAP grant always come to us?
yes.
It does, and it's just a pass through to them, but it touches our. And the mediation center for eviction prevention, we did this last year.
We did. Mhm.
I thought when I was over there, I thought CAP kind of ran a lot of the, is this just for, okay, maybe this is just for the mediation services.
Yep.
CAP still, if they determine they need some help with rent, that still goes to CAP.
Yes. It's a
Okay, I was trying to
partnership.
see if they were taking some of that.
It's a partnership program, and the mediation center, they're really focused, their work is really focused on that landlord tenant mediation piece. So they're not, they would rather leave that financial rent assistance piece to somebody who does that type of work. And so that's the partnership with CAP, that if someone is working with the mediation center and going through that process and they determine the financial assistance would be beneficial in their situation and help resolve that to prevent the eviction, then they will sort of do that referral to CAP, and then CAP can pick that piece up.
Well, I know some had some concerns that CAP wasn't being responsive, and so I was curious if they were trying to take some of that on themselves.
We have shifted some of the program pieces a little bit. We've been working with the mediation center and with CAP and looking at sort of how folks move through that process. The mediation center is doing more of an initial screening piece that helps get some of those things in motion. In order to do a better referral to CAP to kind of expedite how individuals can move through. So we have been doing a lot of work around that.
Okay. And I'm assuming, at least what I'm looking at, I think I'm missing a zero. It's 143,000.
Right.
Gina, to Chairman Dahl's point about the service from CAP, when we receive grants, there's usually strings attached.
Mhm.
Is there anything that we can do with, and you may not know this may be a legal question, but when we issue these grants and extend them, is there anything we can do that has like a service requirement that says you need to meet certain requirements with regards to service, finance, bookkeeping, you need to come and show the commissioners how many people you're actually helping, that type of thing?
Yes, we can ask them to come and give a program update anytime. We do a financial review with them, with everyone we contract with, and do that monitoring piece with the agencies. We also do like a program review, and so we're looking at making sure that they're doing the program as is outlined both in their contract and with the CHG guidelines, because there are parameters for certain things that, you have to have a client file, you have to have certain things in the client file, you have to have a lease before you can issue rent assistance to know what the lease amount is and how long they're there. So there are certain pieces that, that we look at on a regular basis. And if the board wants to invite them in and hear from them at a certain point, we're happy to help facilitate that. They can come in anytime.
Let me take that even deeper. I come from an industry that we had, we would pay outside audits to come in on probably a yearly basis, just to look everything over, and they weren't always the same firm. It was to bring them in and just look at everything and make sure that when the people we served, when we told them something, it was what it was. Do we have the ability? I was looking through the contract briefly this morning, and it shows in there we are responsible for reporting any fraud activity or types of things to the Department of Commerce. Do we have a vehicle? And I'm looking through some of the budget numbers, and I guess I'm looking through this top, like it says standard admin, standard rent, standard, I don't know what standard operation, I don't know what all that means and what you can use those for, but do we have the ability to pick a couple agencies and hire an independent firm to come in and look at them and make sure things are happening that are supposed to be happening? And can that be billed out of one of those?
Potentially. I'll explain what we currently do as our practice if we want to.
Yeah, and I get that. And we had that at the financial institution too. We had internal auditors. We had all that internal. I'm talking about an independent set of eyes that walks in and says, and looks at books and says, yeah, you're either good or we missed it over here or something of that nature.
Yeah, potentially. I'm happy to figure out if we could, if we could bill something like that to this grant to pay for that cost. I know CAP, for example, because they are involved in a lot of different things, they have to do a federal single audit and they submit that result to us when that's complete. So we see that piece from them as well. That is, as a different entity doing auditing on them as an agency as a whole. But I'm happy to look into that a little bit more.
Okay, well, then I would have three questions for you. One, can we do it?
Mhm.
Two, are you able to use funds out of this contract to do that? And are our contracts written in the sense that would give us the ability to do that? I mean, we've put out some big money, and I'm just throwing this out there because this is where we put money. We've put over 2 million into Best Place. Well, if I was in my financial institution, I'd like to know that went where it's supposed to go. I mean, we would do that. And I'm not picking on Best Place. It's just one that comes to mind that we've put in a lot of money. We put a lot of money into hospital projects and campus towers and stuff like that. And I think it's, at least in my mind, it's prudent that every once in a while we go out and I can tell the public, yeah, we had an independent audit, and in these funds that we did, they went and they acted like they were supposed to act. And I guess what prompts it is you look at it on a national level and you look at some of the things they've done and some of the, to me, which is obvious fraud, and I don't want that happening to our people in the county. So that would be my three questions to you. Okay.
Yep. Happy to look at that. We typically, with those capital type projects, we review every receipt as it comes, as they submit invoices to us. So we, with those capital projects, we ask for them to submit all of their receipts when they submit for reimbursement from us. So we're looking at that as it comes in to make sure it's going towards what it was intended to go towards. With these contracts, more service-based contracts, we do a risk assessment in the beginning of contracting where we determine, how much funds are we giving them? Is this a new service? Is it something they've done for a long time? And determine a risk level. And then we audit based on what risk level is determined. And so we'll do either, depending on their risk level, low, medium, or high, we'll do a random spot check of the invoice, and we'll say, okay, submit all of your
Yeah.
receipts and backup for this time period. And it's, it's not known to them ahead of time. We just pick it randomly and review that. If we see anything that doesn't, match up, then we will look at more and broaden the scope.
And I'm not trying in any way, shape or form suggest that you're not doing
Yeah.
your job. I think you guys do your job. I think you do what you're supposed to do. But it's just like in my world too, we had people and we always expected they did their job, and I think they did. But the advantage you have with somebody outside is you have somebody with no personal relationships,
Mhm.
and you have somebody that has the time to look deeper. They don't have 15 projects they're trying to manage.
Yeah.
And I think that's the advantages you gain. And I think that type of look makes sense every so often.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
I'm happy to look into that.
Gina, has there ever been, to your knowledge, has there ever been an outside agency that audits any of this process besides your department, somebody completely separate from the county? Has the county ever hired an outside auditor to go through and confirm what his question is?
Has the county hired? Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. So I guess I would say, yeah, I would support that if, do we have the ability to
Mhm.
hire an outside independent
Mhm.
agency, and two, to bill those expenses to these funds?
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to look into that.
And I would be in favor, I don't know if we already do, but I would be in favor of having them come in and give us the opportunity to ask them questions on an annual basis. And the outside audit, I don't look at it as a situation where we're not trusting anybody
Mhm.
within the county or the people that are receiving the money, but it's a way to keep honest people honest.
Yeah, sure.
But it's also transparency and accountability.
Mhm.
And ultimately, this is taxpayer money. And I really think that they should sit right here and tell us what they're doing with their money. We met with somebody last week and I was able to ask them, how many people do you bring into the program? How many have graduated? And she had a number for every single one of them. And I'm like, that's what we want to see.
Due diligence.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
And I appreciate these numbers. I kind of asked for that, what we've been granted and spent, so. I didn't, what, on the, and I don't even know if you know this, 23, 25, what was Habitat that I know we've given Habitat, but I thought we gave out a dock fees for a project, so this was a little different.
We used a combination in that
Oh,
when we contracted, yeah.
Just
So,
all involves that property they were,
yeah, some of it was for that
Gotcha.
project and some of it was for some rehab work. Yeah.
okay.
We used a combination. Yeah.
In this category of unallocated funds,
Mm-hmm.
are there specific things that we can itemize and say, these are things that we can put that money towards? Or what the
Yes.
restrictions are that we can't use it for?
Yes, there are lots of discussion to be had if we want to look at those remaining funds. There is some budget categories coming in that are included in the contract, and we could certainly schedule a work session if you'd like. We have had a couple of requests that came to us, and so I sort of have some ideas in my brain from partners that have approached us in terms of utilizing this funding for different things. So we could certainly set up a workshop and kind of look at what it can be used for, what we have, and what potential projects we could support in the community if we want to do that.
Yeah. I'm always happy to do that. The caution I have is I know that the state puts parameters on how you use that. And my personal belief is that the state sucks at doing this. They've spent, and I gave you numbers before, they've spent over $5 billion on this complex. And all it's done is put us at number 3 in growth and number 1 in chronic homelessness. And so somebody coming to me wanting money to do the same things that I see are creating the problem, not fixing the problem, is going to be a tough sell. I'm just being upfront with you.
Yeah, yeah. And if,
If somebody comes with something new and wants to try it and we can get it through,
yeah,
I'm not afraid of new.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
just afraid of doing the same old stuff that's proven to be a failure.
Keep feeding the same old problem.
Yeah.
yeah. If I had any legislative ask, it would be that this grant not come with all of the,
Yeah, that they
The
give some
string.
leeways to the counties to do something that each county can be unique in how
right,
they handle and the problems they have. And you have no ability to adjust to fit what your specific needs are.
right.
And what the public sees is you got this money, why aren't you handing it out? Well, I'm
Mhm.
just not, it's still taxpayer money. I'm just not going to hand it out for failed programs.
Yeah.
Did you ever get any feedback from the state on why the monies that originally went to City of Longview all of a sudden came to us? Why they allocated that differently?
No, I think they're just trying to streamline their internal contracting processes. So trying to do less of these one-off contracts for them, and they're trying to consolidate it all into this contract. That's my understanding.
Okay.
Jeannie, you do great work and I've told you that before. And I think you got the pulse on this thing. Tomorrow, there's been a couple articles out I'm hearing, so it might be a little boisterous. And
Yeah.
I'm just kind of giving you a heads up.
Yep, I anticipate that as well. Yep. Yeah, so, any other questions on the consolidated homeless grant before tomorrow?
I just appreciate all the work you've done on it. I see the work you put into this kind of stuff on the task force, and you do a great job, to echo Chairman Dahl's.
Thank you. And like, I think I've told all of you, if we need to do something different or in a different way, let me know, because we're happy to do that. We also, as I mentioned, aside from CHG, have developmental disabilities contracts on the agenda tomorrow. We have the state contract along with 3 pass-through contracts. 3 pass-through contracts. The state contract provides funding for specific services. So it provides some funding for child development services, which we historically passed down to the Progress Center as our neurodevelopment center in Cowlitz County. It also provides funding for adult employment and day programs. These are our services that help individuals with developmental disability to become employed in the community, which is a really neat thing. We are still hovering around 84% employed, which is really great, and have about 53 businesses that have hired individuals with a disability in our community. So really love that program. Love to be a part of it because it's just a really neat to see and hear about individuals working in the community and earning their own wage. A lot of us like to support that. So we have that contract on the agenda. And like I said, as well as a couple pass-throughs. So what we have for the pass-throughs tomorrow is the Progress Center, Compass Career Solutions, and LifeWorks. We have 2 more that will come at a future date, Goodwill and Employers Overload. They weren't quite ready for tomorrow, so we'll have them at a future meeting.
So not anybody, but anybody that works in this field has the ability to work with you and try to put a contract together. We're not exclusionary to LifeWorks or any of these.
No,
I think they do a good job. I'm just making a point.
Yeah, we actually have an RFQ that's posted year-round on our website. So at any point, a provider could inquire about becoming contracted with us for these services. Yep. And we do see that occasionally. I think Employers Overload is our most recent, and we have one more that has inquired. So we have to go through and look at their, to make sure that they meet the qualifications that the state has set forth and look at our budget and what that looks like. So,
Yeah. I personally know a couple kids in this program. One is a neighbor of mine and one that was a son of a gal I worked with a long time. And they like having the opportunity to be out there.
mhm.
I mean, they don't want to just be shut in their home.
Yeah.
They want to be productive. So.
Yep.
uh,
Yep. I'm just going to put a plug out. October is National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And so you'll see some social media posts and things from us about that. We were looking and considering a proclamation as well. We have some community partners that have asked about a county proclamation for that. So that might be something that comes up.
And I don't know if it works for the county. If it does, I would love to see the county participate and help some of these kids
Mhm.
as they move down their path.
Yeah, I would as well. We, at HHS, we do some, every once in a while, we do a job. Now the word's escaping me. We allow individuals to come in and volunteer, and they do some job training in our building. And so they'll complete some task for us by volunteering their time, and we get to interact a little bit with them. And their job coach comes in, and they're observing their skills and abilities and helping them figure out what they're able to do, what they like to do. So it's really neat to be part of that. And always we'll look for opportunities for the county to get more involved in that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Else?
as always, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe bring candy tomorrow.
Candy,
For Commissioner Farrell.
candy, popcorn
No, and he'll inhale it. I'm thinking of.
for the audience. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Is David on? Mr. David.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Morning. Is yours the call for a public hearing? No?
No, mine's the special DPA agreement with Seabrist Busta James, special prosecuting attorney. I think Jason might be standing by for the public hearing thing.
Okay, yeah. We've talked about this before, right? We're moving from the person we had and this is a new firm we've had some experience with and liked. Am I on the right path or am I thinking different?
Yeah, just for a little bit more further background, there's there's employment law and labor law. Employment law is like the HR stuff. Labor law is like the CBA arbitration type stuff.
Okay.
Before we had the agreement, it was like a week or two ago with Elena Bundy. And that was about employment law, where we're going in a different direction there. And she's originally based out of Bellingham, very affordable rate. You guys signed that agreement. She's worked with Jessica and Shelley and me
Okay.
before, and so that's all good. The labor law, we've been kind of in between attorneys. We worked with a different firm before, and then in the last year or so, we haven't really had a need for it. Like there hasn't been CBA negotiations. That's going to be ramping back up. So I reached out to 3 different firms because we need someone to step in. And we've typically outsourced that type of work to avoid conflicts with our other clientele who are obviously on the other end of the bargaining table often. And we found Seabrist Busto James as the best option. They are charging a government discount rate. They're the ones who are in Clallam County right now. They've worked with the elected prosecutor there, done a good job. The main primary guy is Matt Lynch. I think he could probably be described as probably one of the top labor attorneys in the state in terms of experience and well-known, and he's litigated and arbitrated lots of bargaining negotiation experience. He's going to be someone that's great to have at the table. So I don't know if you had specific questions about the contract or anything, but that's kind of the big picture.
Okay, so if I describe it tomorrow as, if we get into a situation where working a labor case would be a conflict of interest, we go to this group, would that be accurate?
Well, they're going to be doing the like labor negotiations, and if there's an arbitration, so they're going to be handling all the labor matters.
Okay,
And they work in conjunction with our office, like we'll oversee it, but they're gonna be handling it. So they're gonna be working with Jessica for the labor negotiations, and then if there's an arbitration that needs to happen out of one of the unions, they would handle it.
okay. Just trying to figure out how to, and typically when we sign these, are they like 3-year deals or yearly deals, or do you?
Yeah, this one we did it through 2028.
Okay. So a 3-year contract.
Yeah. With an asterisk that it's subject to renegotiation and amendment after December 31, 2026. And I think part of that might be due to the fact of just election timeframes. But yeah, we've technically the contract runs through 2028.
Okay,
And I think this firm was actually one that last time when Dana Gigler was here and we originally got a different labor firm on board, they had responded to inquiries at that time. And they were one of the top 2 that we were considering. And we ended up going with a different firm before. Then they had a change in personnel. And anyway, long story short, they look like the best option right now overall.
okay. Thank you, David.
Yeah, is that it or anything else or on that?
I think unless people have questions tomorrow, I think I can explain it fairly decently.
Okay, and I'll come on, so you could do it at the beginning with the consent agenda, is that right?
Yes,
I'll log in, and if you want me to say anything tomorrow morning, I sure can, so,
okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
yeah, no problem.
That one's pretty simple, right? We've discussed that, and you just have to have a public hearing to.
Yeah, Kathy Funkbaxter, Finance Director. I just have to have a request for a public hearing, formal, and then based upon that, then we will publicize for at least 2 weeks. And the public hearing is to do 2 things. One, to amend the budget for 2025. And secondly, to establish a new fund, which we've talked about a couple times for the sheriff's office, the Equipment and Technology Fund. So that's what the public hearing is for. And then I have another item on the agenda for a resolution. And that's a resolution related to contracting indebtedness. And it's declaring, it's a declaration of official intent to reimburse capital expenditures in connection with the construction of improvements to the Cowlitz County Event Center from proceeds of a future bonding or borrowing. They anticipate going out for a new bond in 2026, I think early first quarter of 2026, possibly for about $13 million. And this would allow the PFD to actually reimburse themselves from those proceeds. So, but we have to do this resolution because we would be the entity actually issuing those $13 million bond proceeds.
Okay. I'll try and remember that. If I make a question tomorrow, you might have to help me answer it.
Yeah, so anyway, so it's just an IRS requirement that this is on file in order for them to utilize future bond proceeds to reimburse themselves.
Is that going to impact our rating? In
Yes,
future?
well, the bond will be issued under the county's name. But yeah, so it'd be part of the county's borrowing capacity. Yep, so. And this is something they've come and talked with y'all about previously and did a presentation of what they would be doing with these bond proceeds and improving the convention center.
Yeah, PFDs, they could set up and bond themselves. The advantage if we bond it through us and we feel like we have the capacity, we've talked about that, and looked at that, and it should be fine.
It's
The-
more
the rate
advantageous
is-
to do it through us.
The rate is much better than them
Right,
doing it themselves.
yep, so. And they've already started, this is all part of the master plan, and so they've already started doing some of these items. So time is of the essence. In order to hit this window, there's like a 60-day window. So anyway, so that's why we're hurrying and trying to get this on the agenda. And this has been, this resolution comes to us from our bond counsel, and so it's been reviewed, and it's a document that they've signed off on.
So our bond counsel prepares this for us, so we know we're all in compliance, or
Right.
our legal team
They've
is.
made sure, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They've made sure it's in the appropriate language. And like I said, this is pretty much an IRS type requirement, so. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
And so does Shelley. Is Shelley coming? Shelley? An executive session.
Is Jessica running this, or is it? Okay, so, but Carolyn, you have an executive?
I guess just a brief.
Okay, okay. So if we can go ahead and take it, Jessica, if you're good, yeah.
Good morning, Jessica Warren, Human Resources. I have one request from the auditor's office this morning, and Carolyn came with some background on this request. Okay, there you go.
Will it just appear on here? So, thank you. We're so tech savvy now. Look at us. I know. I love this. Today I'm requesting a staff reclassification in addition to salary increase. Oh, see, I would have never. Thank you. So this request has two parts. This would be reclassifying staff from deputy auditor to licensing and recording specialist, and also providing a 5% salary increase once staff achieve two things: 2 years of service and complete their recording certification. The intent is to better reflect the actual work being performed and to provide an incentive that helps us retain skilled employees. I put together a couple of slides so that I've talked to you about this before, but I wanted it to be in black and white, how they achieve it and also how it would be paid for so that you have it in writing. The current title, Deputy Auditor, is outdated and does not accurately reflect the specialized duties our staff carry out. In 2006, the licensing and recording departments were merged into one office. Since then, employees have been expected to master two very different areas of expertise, and no incentive was provided to recognize the additional responsibility. While this works well in a lot of small counties, most mid to larger counties still maintain two very separate departments, licensing and recording. It is difficult for us to retain qualified employees, which in turn has led to service interruptions and even office closures for me. The recording certification is a professional credential that ensures staff have advanced knowledge in handling, preserving, and accurately recording historical documents. But by tying a 5% salary increase to both longevity and certification, we recognize the value of that expertise and we encourage them to stay with the department long-term, which in turn provides better service to the public. So the best part, the 5% increase would be paid entirely from the auditor's O&M fund. This fund is restricted. Its primary purpose is to support the preservation of historical documents and to provide for the auditor's office recording software system, along with maintenance and replacement costs. Our current fund balance is more than sufficient to support both our system needs and the modest salary increase tied to certification. So to summarize, the request has no impact on the general fund. The O&M fund is dedicated to exactly this type of work, ensuring the accuracy and preservation of public records. By using it for certification incentives, we're both following the intent of the fund and strengthening our office's ability to serve the public without interruption. You have any questions for me?
This reclassification, what's it do to our other departments? I've seen this and then other departments want that reclassification. Where are we at with?
So
I get that you're presenting something that doesn't attack or impact general funds, but it
Yes.
could from others.
well, Carolyn is changing not necessarily the structure of her office, but moving away from that deputy auditor classification. And this is specific to a licensing and recording.
That's the
Position.
reclassification piece where we changed the name. We're moving away from deputy auditor to recognize the special needs in the office. So they would be retitled to licensing and recording specialist, not tied to deputy auditor.
And
So-
then just to clarify, so the title change, it's not a reclassification for the entire office. It's specifically a reclassification for her lead licensing and recording. And then a new classification of a licensing and recording specialist 3. The rest of the office remain unchanged. So
Yeah.
the impact is how many employees, Carolyn?
6 total. The front line in the auditor's office. Well, total
Yeah.
eventually, if they
Yeah.
stay
The
and
cur-
achieve
The
that.
current reclassification is only 2 lead
positions and then one person who's eligible for that 3 level.
So we won't have a deputy auditor anymore?
Not in the auditor's office. You would still have deputy auditors, I'm assuming, in like treasurer's office, or the deputy treasurers, or
The treasurer's office has like deputy treasurers, deputy clerks. This is separate from the chief deputy, though.
So what's the level compared to the deputy? Is it a different level up?
it's adding one classification. So they are still at the same, they all start at the same salary classification, but at the 2-year point, this would provide one additional structure for my license and recording specialists once they hit 2 years.
Yeah, so what is now the deputy auditor 1 and 2, those remain unchanged at salary grade 180 and 190. And then deputy auditor 3, which is now the licensing and recording specialist 3, will be salary grade 200, which is just a 5% increase from that. And then the lead would go to 210.
So there's no domino effect anywhere else because of this.
So the deputy auditor or whatever in treasurer is at 190?
Step 1, 180, step 1, right?
Correct, yes.
And you don't think they'll want to change the title so they can be at 200?
Do they have a dedicated fund to pay for it?
Your fund was set up for, and it's not just limited to your office, right? Isn't it?
Yeah,
People
it's
for records
funded.
retention, anybody can tap into it, right?
Not anybody can tap into it. They have to apply for it, like Stacy does, the clerk's office. I've historically funded a part-time position in the clerk's office for decades now. That sole function of that position is records preservation. So we sign an MOU with Stacy annually. I know it's a difficult decision during difficult budget times. But I think that you've all noticed issues within my office with longevity and people jumping for 5% to other offices. It would just provide that one additional step to promote a little longevity, and then it's up to me to retain those employees.
Trying to figure out why it isn't part of the budget process, so other departments could look at it and I know I'm not comfortable that it's not gonna create problems other areas, just to be honest with you. I'm not comfortable.
It's a convoluted process. I've restructured prior to this. We didn't have a deputy auditor 1 and 2. So that structure that was set up, it's still an unclear process as to how that works. We have to sort of get your green light unofficially ahead of time to even work with the union. And then we work with the union and then we come back, and it's kind of a long and confusing process. By the time we get back here, I couldn't align with budget timelines to know.
So are you telling me this request is to start that process with the union? Is that what I'm hearing?
We met with you in executive session to get the kind of green light just to talk to the union. And then it took several weeks for that process to, be vetted through the union approved, and now we're back for an official yes or no.
So all the groundwork's done to this point.
All I can say is if you guys are comfortable, that's fine, but I'm not comfortable in what it means to other departments.
I know we've been through this discussion several times. And I don't know how this would affect other departments or bleed into it. And I understand your concern.
Jessica, do you see any pitfalls?
I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you. I think that there could potentially be other requests, and that's something that has occurred in the past. So I'm not, confident that this isn't going to create issues amongst other departments or offices.
Is there an easy answer to contain this so it doesn't bleed over to any other departments?
Well, it is tied to certification. First of all, it's tied to 2 years and certification. So the fact that other deputies were reclassed in the first place and treated as the same when they don't have a certification is not, not my expertise, but that's how I would justify it. Both my licensing and recording divisions require it. So maybe if there are certifications tied to it, then yes. I mean, they do have already the deputy auditor or deputy treasurer, deputy clerk, whatever, 1 and 2, and their own requirements, but that's all up to you.
Deborah Gardner, Cowlitz County Treasurer. I heard you on there and I had the question of how this falls to other departments. If my front office hears about this, they're gonna ask for the same thing. So it does affect across the board. And the other question is, this is a budget item. When I had some changes, I went through the budget. So I'm curious why that's not going through budget.
The process itself isn't outlined for us in any way, shape, or form. Like I say, it's confusing, and I did have discussions early on. I guess if you wanted me to go through the budget process, then I would have been happy to do so. But like I say, it's kind of a lot of back and forth communication and vetting through the union, and then getting the word back from Jessica. So it was just a timing issue and communication issue. It's not that I'm avoiding the budget process at all.
I think it points out, and I know we've talked about it before, we have that. And I think you're working on that policy that then would be in writing and everybody'd have a chance to look at it.
Yeah, so I'm working on updating that policy, and I hope to have a draft for Kathy to review as well. And then I'm hoping that we can implement that policy effective for 2026 for how we make our requests. We have a form that we've been working on and trying to get to a more standardized process for that.
I have a suggestion. So next week, we do have a personnel workshop, budget workshop. I don't know when is this effective?
This is the request.
Okay, so we could add this to our next week's personnel workshop, add this particular item. And that way it's included in the budget process.
I would be open to that. So then like Treasurer come up and had comments on it today, and others would have the chance to do the same.
Yes, and actually treasurers on our personnel item, clerk's office is in the personnel item, so that they would be present at the same time. So that might be beneficial.
That would help me, just me personally.
I'm good with
Yeah.
that.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, so we'll add it. We'll work with Carolyn and get those added in. I do understand one of the things she's talking about is that in the budget process, there is outside of the budget process, the union issue to take these to the union. So maybe that's something we can address in the policy, revision of the policy.
You know, it's a difficult thing because each, the auditors, treasurers, I mean, they all can have unique needs, but over time, when you're dealing with the unions, they want to see them all as all the same. And I don't mind looking at them as unique departments, but then we have to keep them. They have to understand that they're unique from others, and it doesn't tend to happen here. So when we do something, I've seen that it affects across the board. So then it's not that I'm trying to say you don't need it. It's that I'm trying to say, I'm trying to figure out what the impact is totally to the county, not just to, auditor's office or anybody's office. Okay,
So we'll add that one with the other items for next week's personnel workshop.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
What did Shelley have?
She has an executive session.
Shelley, you had an executive session? Go ahead.
Well, I just had a request for an executive session under collective bargaining for 5 minutes.
Okay,
Jason.
That's fine. I can wait.
okay, executive session, collective bargaining, 5 minutes, and this is separate?
Separate from Shelley, yeah.
Okay, so because we got Jason on the line, we'll do yours. Okay, perfect.
No, Jason's for Shelley, sorry.
Oh. Okay, sorry. Let me back up here.
Shelley Pierce.
Shelley Pierce, Risk Management. We're requesting an executive session to review a tort claim. We need about 15 minutes.
Okay. I hear you. Okay, we'll go to executive session, reviewing litigation, 15 minutes. Okay.
board is extending the executive session an additional 5 minutes until 11 a.m. The board is extending the executive session an additional 5 minutes until 11:05.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
We put him on as a participant.
He has to jump on.
Okay, tell him to jump on her.
Protocol, protocol, protocol.
Yeah.
Getting tired of protocol. Exactly. Okay, back from executive session on potential litigation. A decision was made to proceed with action as we typically do. That good enough? Okay. Now we'll be going into collective bargaining for 5 minutes in another executive session.
The board is extending the executive session for a period of 5 minutes until 11 or 11:15 a.m.
Okay, back from executive session, no decisions rendered. Anything else, Jessica? We're all good? Anything else, gentlemen? Think we're all good? Buckle up for tomorrow a little bit. Okay, we will adjourn. Thank you.